It seems like there's a renewed interest in expanding the European Union after a period of tiredness. The EU appears to be moving towards expanding again after some time. In late August this year, Charles Michel, the President of the European Council, suggested expanding the EU by 2030, possibly increasing the number of members from 27 to 36. Following this, in early November, the European Commission revealed its 2023 enlargement plan, outlining advancements for 6 Balkan countries aiming for accession and a new association trio comprising Ukraine, Moldova and Georgia. This is quite significant. The big question now is, with 8 countries waiting to join, who will be the next EU member? In this video, we'll explore how countries are progressing with their EU applications, the challenges they encounter, and ultimately, which country is most likely to become a member. To provide some background, it has been a decade since Croatia became an EU member in 2013. Since then, a sense of tiredness about further enlargement has prevailed in EU politics. Essentially, it reflects the EU's reluctance, largely due to internal disagreements, to admit new members. However, this might change soon, and while there are still disagreements among member states on how and when to expand, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has brought a new geopolitical and possibly moral urgency to advance in the applications of potential members. After a decade of little progress, let's see which countries are moving closer to becoming the EU's next members. Entering the EU involves several stages. Initially, countries submit a formal application and are subsequently given candidate status. Subsequently, negotiations for membership commence. However, this process can be protracted and relies not only on a country's readiness, but also on the political situation in Europe. Turkey was the pioneer in applying for membership in 1987. However, it wasn't until 17 years later, following the 90s dissolution of Yugoslavia, that other countries began their applications. North Macedonia applied in 2004, Montenegro in 2008, Serbia and Albania in 2009, and Bosnia and Herzegovina lastly in 2016. Between 2016 and 2022, no new applications were submitted, but 2022 marked a significant year for EU enlargement. Ukraine applied for EU membership merely 4 days after Russia's invasion, and Georgia, originally planning to apply in 2024, did so 2 years earlier in March 3rd, shortly after Ukraine. In December 2022, Kosovo symbolically applied for EU membership amidst a license plate dispute with Serbia. These are the countries that have applied for membership thus far, leading us to the subsequent stage, obtaining formal candidate status. Candidate status represents the initial official phase towards EU membership. It indicates the European Commission's provisional approval of an application, contingent upon the country meeting various criteria. The initial 5 countries we mentioned acquired candidate status relatively swiftly, within 3 years of their application. Montenegro, Albania and North Macedonia benefited from their prior NATO membership, often preceding EU accession. Bosnia and Herzegovina took a bit longer, but secured candidate status in 2022. Moldova and Ukraine set a new pace, achieving candidate status by completing all necessary steps within 3 months. Unfortunately, Kosovo and Georgia, as applicant countries, are yet to receive candidate status. Kosovo lacks the essential administrative capacity and broad coordination across sectors necessary for candidacy, while Georgia requires attention due to democratic regression and Russian influence. Before confirming its candidacy, certain matters need to be addressed. It's worth mentioning that in November, the Commission proposed granting candidate status to Georgia. Altogether, this means there are currently 8 countries holding candidate status. So, who will be the first to join? The final step toward EU membership involves the negotiation phase. The Commission proposes a preliminary plan for these discussions, which commence upon approval from member states. These discussions adhere to EU regulations called the Acquis Communautaire, categorized into 35 chapters spanning 6 areas: fundamentals, internal market, competitive and inclusive growth, green agenda and sustainable connectivity, resources agriculture, and cohesion and external relations. Annually, the Commission evaluates these sections for each applicant country through a process known as screening. Each of the 35 chapters is assigned a status ranging from an early stage to a good level of preparation. Early stage indicates issues in a particular area, whereas a good level of preparation suggests that the country has essentially completed that chapter. Once a country has made significant progress on a chapter, the EU Commission can initiate formal negotiations on that particular chapter. Upon the Commission's satisfaction with progress and reforms in a given chapter, it can be concluded. When all chapters have been concluded, the country becomes ready for accession. So let's examine the progress of each country in their negotiations. Turkey suspended talks and negotiations with the EU in 2019 after years of stalled negotiations, making it no longer a genuine contender. Focusing solely on chapters, Montenegro leads the pack by having opened all 33 relevant chapters, closed 3 with 11 chapters at a good level of preparation and none in the initial stages. The EU has established strong economic connections with Montenegro, supporting projects such as the Montenegro-Serbia rail interconnection and the Trans-Balkan electricity corridor. Additionally, during last year's energy crisis, the EU provided Montenegro with an energy support package and €3 million in grant funding. However, political instability in Montenegro, currently governed by a caretaker government, has hampered progress. The Commission has indicated that further chapters won't be concluded until Montenegro enhances its rule of law and establishes stable politics, which could help resolve these issues. Serbia follows, having opened 22 chapters and closed 2, with 7 chapters at a good level of preparation and none in the initial stages, excluding the contentious issue of Kosovo. Serbia's advancements in fostering a market economy and reinforcing judicial independence indicate closer proximity to accession than in previous times. Subsequently, Albania and North Macedonia come into focus. North Macedonia has 2 chapters in the initial stage and 7 at a good level, while Albania has only 1 chapter in the initial stage and 5 at a good level. Moving on to Ukraine, significant strides have been made in recent domestic reforms, resulting in 4 chapters at a good level and 5 in the initial stages. Following Ukraine is Moldova with 1 chapter at a good level and 7 in the initial stages. Although neither country has completed screening, both have shown notable progress lately, prompting the Commission to recommend the Council to initiate accession negotiations with them. However, Moldova faces considerable challenges due to corruption and Russian interference, particularly through exiled oligarch-supported parties, which pose significant concerns, notably in the upcoming local elections. Additionally, the issue of Transnistria, a pro-Russian separatist region, adds complexity to their path to accession. Bosnia and Herzegovina lag behind with a substantial 13 chapters in the initial stage. Bosnia's accession has been impeded by various issues, primarily stemming from the Republic Srpska's defiance of the Constitutional Court, reintroduction of defamation penalties, and a proposed law to designate civil society groups as foreign agents. Furthermore, the alignment with Russia under the leadership of Republic Srpska's Milorad Dodik could further hinder its application. In actuality, a country's prospects for accession hinge not only on chapter advancements, but also on geopolitics, which complicates matters. For instance, despite Serbia's substantial progress on chapters, accession appears improbable due to President Vučić's diplomatic balancing between Europe and Russia and the persistent issue of Kosovo. Similarly, Kosovo's EU membership bid faces challenges for the same reasons, compounded by the non-recognition of Kosovo by some aspiring association trio countries and 5 EU member states abstaining from recognition to avoid inciting domestic separatist movements. Despite Serbia having a slight edge with candidate status, there's a possibility that both Serbia and Kosovo might enter the EU simultaneously to expedite the process. This approach is considered crucial, as analysts believe that either country would veto the other's entry if one were to join the EU first. Adding further complexity, the EU is urging Ukraine and Moldova to swiftly proceed with the accession process. Notably, EU asserted that Moldova could potentially join without resolving the Transnistria dispute. Additionally, in December, the 27 EU heads of government will convene in Brussels to determine whether to initiate accession negotiations with Ukraine. With the release of the 2023 enlargement package in November, this prospect appears more likely. Nonetheless, if negotiations commence, Ukraine's path to membership would be lengthy and potentially controversial. Fast-tracking their application could be perceived as unjust to other Balkan candidate states. Moreover, entering the EU's free market is a significant step, yet Ukraine has shown little progress in competition, economic and monetary policies. Challenges involving the ongoing war, difficulties integrating Ukraine's extensive agricultural output into the EU's common agricultural policy, and persistent corruption issues might lead Ukraine into prolonged discussions with minimal advancements. Much rests on the forthcoming EU deliberations in December. That's it for today, and we now invite you to share your thoughts in the comments section. We will catch you in the next one. Bye.